Thank you for watching 5-Minute Bible Studies. My name is Tanner Campbell, and in this episode, we're going to be considering a very interesting and specific idea and a question of whether we can use or listen to songs to God with instrumental accompaniment outside of the assembly. Now, if you haven't already watched the episode of Music in Worship, I hope you'll pause this now and go and check that episode out for a few minutes because here we're going to be building upon that knowledge base that was established in that previous episode. So here we're dealing specifically with the use of or listening to in the car or at home or what have you, instrumental music accompaniment of normally worship songs or songs directed to God or praise to God or thanksgiving to God, spiritual songs, these kinds of things outside of the assembly. We've already established that it would be wrong inside the assembly, but how about outside the assembly? I don't think that's a question that is really often raised, and so I think it's very interesting for us to consider it today. Now, really, this comes down to the root of the issue, is raising simply one question. Are we listening to these songs to God with instrumental accompaniment for the purpose of worship or for the purpose of entertainment? Now, if we are doing it for the purpose of worship, we already have commandments like Ephesians 5:19, Colossians 3:16 that tell us that these things are not allowed in our worship to God. Instrumental music is not allowed in our worship to God. And so we've answered part of the question already, that if we have a mind here that we're listening to these things or playing these things for the purpose of worship to God, even outside the assembly, worship is still worship. And so we need to follow the way in which God has commanded us to worship Him. And so that leaves us with the second half of the question. Are we doing these things now for entertainment? Because really the idea is, the bottom line is, it's either for worship or it's for for entertainment. It's for either common things or uncommon things. So if it's for entertainment, that raises another question. Are we transgressing now a different commandment of God? Consider, for example, what God said in Exodus chapter 20 and verse 7. Where He says, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes His name in vain." You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. But is that exactly what we do when we use His name in common ways, in common speech? When people walk about this earth saying, "Oh my God," or "Oh Lord," or "Oh Jesus Christ," or something like that in their common speech, we're using His name without proper purpose and without proper use. That's the idea of the word vain. There's an emptiness to it, and God is way too holy for us to use His name that way. And so we understand that in common conversation, but what about in music? Music on the radio or on CDs or something like that, or playing normally worship songs outside the assembly saying, well, we're not really worshiping God, we're just doing this because we enjoy it ourselves, we're entertained by this. Well, if it's entertainment, we have now brought the name of God down from a point of reverence and holiness, setting Him apart, to now something common, just like any other secular entertainment or secular songs. We're now bringing God down to the level of secularly not set apart and not uncommon, no longer holy. And so these songs that we're listening to outside the assembly with instrumental accompaniment, and we're thinking, oh, we're just doing it because we like it. We're really not trying to worship God here. It's entertainment. This is what we like to listen to. It's good, clean fun. Well, it's really not all that clean when we come down to the bottom line that God has told us in Leviticus 10:3, I must be regarded as holy. We must always, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're listening to, no matter what we're saying or singing, we must hold Him at a very high level of reverence and holiness and purity. And so to say that we're doing these things purely for our own entertainment, have we brought down God's name to a level of irreverence, to a level by which we are now using Him in an improper way? That's the question that demands our attention. So I beg of us that we call these things to mind. Think about these things. Think about what we're doing, if this indeed is something that we like to do outside of the assembly.